Hi, I'm James McGuire, and on today's eSpeaks, we're talking about modern business intelligence, the numbers that run our world, and how we can get more value from them. Most important, we're looking at how to generate revenue from these metrics. To discuss that, I'm joined by Roman Stanek, Chief Executive Officer at GoodData. Roman, very good to have you with us today.
Thank you. It's good to meet you. It's good to talk to you.
And Roman, how's your week going this week? Is this a busy one, a regular one? What's your worldview today?
It was a super busy week. We are getting ready to launch GoodData Cloud, a new product. And so I spent whole week in kind of a management offsite, getting all the people on the same page and so on. So it was a super busy week. And I have to say that this was an unusual week because we spent my whole management team and the kind of extended management team 2 weeks in the same room, which I think that the last time we spent time, it was a Zoom room, not in a physical room. So it was kind of exceptionally good week that I was able to see faces first time in many years, all together.
Glad to see you are back in person. It's refreshing, isn't it? I really
It
do
is
like that
absolutely
myself.
special.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about business intelligence. I mean, obviously, you're very close to the market. So
Mhm.
as you survey the business intelligence market, what are a couple of key trends you see moving us forward or holding us back this year?
Yeah, I would say, if you look at kind of the biggest trend that's happening in business intelligence, and that this trend is happening for the last 20 years, maybe 25 years, is this kind of self-service democratization of data. That's going on for a long time. Unfortunately, we are not making a lot of progress. Historically, we made very little progress, and I think that everyone's kind of looking at the new cloud ecosystem, new cloud technologies to kind of help us to get analytics and BI, business intelligence, into the hands of as many people as possible. And
Right.
McKinsey even wrote a paper. They call it like data in 2025, and they claim that by 2025, every decision will be data-driven decision. I don't know if I believe that, but I'm doing my part to actually make it happen.
Hmm. It is interesting, that idea of the democratization of data. It feels to me we have a long way to go, but it feels like we've come a long way, and that there's a lot of applications that are relatively easy to use. You know, regular staffers, sales folks, all sorts of people can use them. They're not data scientists.
Mhm.
It feels like we've come a long way in that world, haven't we?
I don't think so. I actually think that I think that there's still a lack of even though people have tools. I have to say, yes, yeah, we have more tools. We definitely have more tools, but I
Mhm.
don't think that people trust the data. I don't think that they see the data as being relevant. I don't think that they kind of know how to know how to use the tools. The
Mm.
data literacy is still low. And it's kind of still very static and inflexible. So there are many kind of problems that we are trying to solve.
Mm.
But definitely kind of the knowledge of data and expectation is kind of is kind of increasing. But as we usually say, expectations minus delivery equals frustration. So I would say many people are frustrated by the lack of progress in data and self-service.
Yeah. Well, I think that the other problem that companies face is that they have all this data, they're trying to crunch it, they're trying to get value from it, but the reality is they spend a lot of money dealing with it all. So the data is, they see it as a possible gold mine, but it also sort of weighs them down, the cost of handling it all. I mean, what do you think in terms of how can companies shift their data from to a revenue generator?
Yeah, and I think that's the main problem, that today most of the investment goes into kind of what we would call data platforms. So places where data gets stored, manipulated, archived, transformed, and so on. But then you have the second part, and that is, how do people actually experience data? How do people actually get access to it? How do people actually go and collaborate and get insights and so on? And that piece, and maybe that's just because we first need to invest in the first half in the kind of the data platforms. Maybe that's kind of necessary first step, but I do believe that now is the time to start investing in the second half, and that is, how do we make data embedded into, again, every decision, into every tool? How do we make it pervasive, widely used, and so on? And that's where we are not making enough progress. But I would say that all the investment in the data platforms like Snowflake and Databricks and others makes data more ready for analytics, but we are still not there.
You brought up a really interesting question, the idea of embedding data in every decision, embedding data in every, sort of point along the network, whether it's data actually embedded in a certain application, whether it's an endpoint. I mean, talk to me a little bit about what that means. What does it mean to have data embedded in the entire process? What would that look like?
It essentially means that you have to have some sort of a flexible framework that every step of the process, you can actually create that context for data, so that people understand the data from the context of that process, from that step of the process. And that's the thing. We are all in the business of kind of data contextualization. We are, the main goal, the main reason why people don't understand data is that they don't understand the context of it. If I show you, like, supply chain data, and I don't give you the context, when was it, what happened, why did it happen, and so on, you will look at it and you will say, I see some charts and so on, but I have no idea what's going on there. So in this kind of vision of making data embedded and part of every single workflow or place of work and so on, we always have to create that kind of context for it. So if I'm in Slack and I see a message, and that message deals with a deal, I need to see data focused on that deal, on that rep, on that situation. And ideally, I also want to see, like, what is actually happening in real time and so on. So yeah, it's not easy. It's not like putting some sort of a static, pie chart or dashboard in some Slack and so on. It needs to be kind of highly real time, relevant, and in the context.
All right, let's look specifically at GoodData, your company. So how is GoodData addressing the business intelligence needs of its clients? What is the GoodData advantage, given that there's plenty of BI solutions out there?
Yeah, it's our focus. We are not focused. We have plenty of tools for data analysts, people who try to kind of visualize and kind of get insights into the data. Our goal, and what we just discussed, is the vision of GoodData is, how do we create, again, a flexible framework so that my Salesforce admin, my Slack admin can actually put the GoodData into the chat, into the screens. They can actually configure it and make it available for everyone to use it. So our goal is to make data available to the whole company, to every single persona, not necessarily just to an analyst. And then you have to deal with, if we actually want to give it to everyone, how do we make it personalized for everyone? How do we still make it real time at that scale? If you have a company of 100,000 people, everyone hitting data, what does it mean to make it real time? What does it mean to make it kind of relevant and understandable and so on? So we are building these kind of tools and frameworks so that people can actually take their data, put it into the application, make it relevant, make it real time, and make it flexible so that it can actually be embedded in every single decision.
It's really interesting about making it personalized for each person, because I think that is the future of data in many ways. So how would it work in terms of, a salesperson wants a certain data feed, someone in the C-suite wants another data feed, maybe someone in IT wants a completely different data feed. Are they able to personalize it themselves? How does that angle work?
Yeah, it depends on the level of skill. If I'm a data scientist, I can definitely do it. There is a concept that we are calling Headless BI, and the Headless BI means that kind of the analytics, the act of analytics is actually headless, which means it doesn't have kind of static UI. So I can actually have the same analysis done for multiple personas, but each persona will use their own UI to do the same analytics. So I can actually have data scientists using Python and Jupyter Notebook to do the analytics with GoodData. I can have the exec using some dashboard, dynamic dashboards and so on, doing the same analytics. I can have the sales rep going to static dashboards in their Salesforce, and it all goes through the same APIs to the same GoodData engine. So they all get the same numbers, the same results. It's kind of a single source of metrics, but this is how we are solving this kind of notion that every persona needs their own experience by breaking BI into multiple pieces. Today BI is monolithic. If you use some sort of a tool like Tableau and so on, there's one way how to use it. And our goal is to break it apart and make it much more flexible so that different people can actually use different tools, but they still use the same underlying analytics. Otherwise, we would get to multiple results and kind of inconsistencies.
Well, speaking of the future
Yeah.
of business intelligence, let's look to that. What do you see as the future of business intelligence and data as a service? And while you're talking about that, please give us a sort of the thumbnail sketch. What is data as a service, and what do you see as the future of it?
Yeah, for me, again, it's kind of goes back to this notion that if you want to make data available for every app, every person, every customer, every employee, and so on, we have to kind of make it again available as a service. We have to make it some part of our kind of service-oriented architecture, so that different tools, different people, different applications can actually consume data, and we are not limited to one type of UI. So that's kind of the vision. Again, the vision of GoodData is that analytics gets so kind of pervasive that everyone will have access to the same APIs. The same way, today we have access to networks and we have access to, office automation and so on. And we are not using the same tool. I can use, different tools for different jobs. So with BI, our goal is to make it so pervasive and so available that everyone will be able to use GoodData, use data in the form they like and they actually know.
Mm-hmm. Do you see any tension, excuse me, between executives running the business using the metrics versus using good old-fashioned instinct? Is that still at war with one another, or are companies really pretty much data-driven these days, as you see it?
I still think that kind of again, I'm a little skeptical about that. The main reason why I'm skeptical again is that if you look at kind of all the studies and so on, I would say 80% of execs don't trust their data.
Mm-hmm.
I once met a CEO of a Fortune 5 company, and he introduced himself and he said, "I'm the CEO and my data sucks." So that's kind of that's how they actually see and again, it's because this is not an easy problem. This is not just by kind of getting some it's not as simple as putting some data warehouse in place and so on. It's again, data has meaning, data has history, data has context, and so on. So for us, all of us kind of trust the data, get exactly what we need, and so on. We are still kind of scratching the surface, but I do believe that cloud is the right place to do it. I do believe that kind of the computing power, the availability of data in the cloud, the open APIs, the open source, the protocols, and so on make it possible. Like 10 years ago, BI and analytics was super proprietary, and we made a lot of progress in kind of ability to actually build new applications from standards. It was not there 10 years ago.
Roman, I think you said it. It's a lot of interesting material, and I think it's going to be a super interesting sector to follow as the years go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise today.
Excellent. Thank you.